Welcome again to Kano Iwanyayi broadcast. This is Sangwadzi Spiwe. I'm back, and today I've got a very interesting program here, interesting segment of another ordinary person who is doing extraordinary work. My guest today is Josephine Mazonde, and Josephine Mazonde is here in Calgary, Canada, Alberta, Canada. So we're bringing in a different perspective, but welcome to the program, Josephine.
Thank you, Spiwe, for allowing me here and also inviting me. I'm really excited to be here. Thank you.
Oh, fantastic. So Josephine is she's an executive director of an organization called Our Solid Roots. And Our Solid Roots Association, it's it's a fairly new organization, nonprofit organization, which I think is doing amazing work. And what its focus is does touch on a lot of people, and she works with African, Caribbean, and or Afrocentric groups in Alberta here in Calgary. And Josephine, I don't want to steal your thunder. I want you to tell us, what is Our Solid Roots and what do you do? What is your organization about?
Thank you. So, Our Solid Roots Association is a not-for-profit organization. This organization was born in 2021, just in the middle of that pandemic before it rolls out and so forth. And what really gave best brought together this organization was the suffering that SNS, working with marginalized communities, as Piwe has said. I observed a lot of struggles there in populations that we work with as healthcare providers, but also community members that I connect with, or I am a member in those communities. And this is struggling with substance use. Substance use could be drugs that are on the street, that we know that this is a pandemic now. It is not just unique to Calgary, Alberta, or Longview, where we are, but Canada, widely and globally, substance use has touched so many lives. We have lost a lot of people, and that's why this organization was formed. And this organization is we take the whole unit of a family, but we connect with the family through a woman. And we work with a woman, and these are women who are surviving substance use. They have gone through detox and treatment. After that, they come back to the communities. And the observation was that they go back to the same struggling environment that they came from before going for treatment. And that really did not give them any better stand to survive or to stay sober. So this organization started to say, how can we now join hands and help these women to stay sober?
You know, when we touch on the issue of substance use, it's major. I know even back home in Zimbabwe, it's also a major thing that they're dealing with. But here in Canada, we are aware of the statistics are really frightening of how many people are dying from overdoses, kids, adults, women, children. All those people are involved, and really, I take my hat off to the work you are doing, because again, there are certain populations which are left out when they are looking at issues such as you're talking about substance use. You're talking about Afrocentric and sometimes Aboriginal communities as well, and specifically with women. That particular population, the women bit of it, is so important. So what you're doing is breaking down the barriers and also to reduce relapse in those who have sought help and maybe have gone for rehab, and they go back to the communities and they meet the same people and the cycle goes on. And what you want is to create lasting change in these populations, right?
Thank you, Spiwe. You put it so well. Yeah.
So how are you doing that? Because I know you live out in Longview, which is a very small place, almost like a village, right? In the
Yes,
reserve.
yes.
But again, you also work with people here in Calgary because you're very close to Calgary. Anyway,
Mhm.
Longview is very close to Calgary. How are you doing this? How are you working with this? Are you working with the community leaders, community members, community facilities? How are you doing it? Maybe you could bring,
Th-
describe it for me.
Yes, thank you so much for that. So we connect with communities from the grassroots. And being in rural area of Alberta, that also helps because the communities are very neat and they are very close. And yes, we also extend to the Calgary area, which include Calgary and other communities around Calgary. So how we work, we started this when we started with this organization. We talked to elders, and with elders, we um, talked to people after age 55 and above. Those were the definition for us, for elders. For example, we talked to about 14 elders from the Afrocentric communities across. Could be they are from Africa and so forth. So we know Afrocentric is huge. It's a huge population when you talk Afrocentric. So the theme that came up mostly was the shock that people face when they migrate to places far away from home, like Canada. They come here, they face, first of all, they can't find jobs. Secondly, they are so well educated, but their credentials are not easily assimilated in the society. And that added a lot of pressure, lot of frustrations that would push some of these populations to numb the pain using substances. And could be alcohol, could be drugs, other drugs there out there, whatever that the individual may be exposed to. The other factor that they identified was the discrimination, racism, as people of they call Afrocentric people of
Oh,
color.
people of
Uh,
color, yeah.
yeah, as people of color, they find a big barrier in finding jobs, including even just jobs that they are trained into, just because of who they are. And that also has added a lot of trauma and a lot of pressure, pushing them off of the fence.
Mhm.
Um, the other factor that they mentioned was the cultural differences, especially when it comes to young people, including also intergenerational relations and communications. Because our children, we bring these children, they are younger, they come from a different culture and so forth. They come in here, they want to assimilate and be part of the community. But with that comes a huge challenges because these individuals, when they migrated here, they bring their own cultures on how they communicate among intergenerational populations, how they, let's say, maybe discipline the child,
Mhm.
how do they relate among elders, youth, and so forth. For example, counseling as a profession for Afrocentric, it doesn't come easy because back where they come from, most of them, we the counseling is through the community, through family. For example, if there's an issue in the family, uncle is there, grandma is there, grandfather is there.
Mhm.
They come together, they listen, they guide, and the thing is resolved. So that also was a big part of the shock. When they came here, they didn't know where to go because uncle is not there, grandpa is not there. So these individuals end up finding themselves in isolation, in frustration. Parents don't know where to reach out. Children, they
Mm.
try, they are in the middle, because they are still learning and so forth. So these were the three main themes that came up when we talked with these elders to help us.
That's interesting because how you say this actually puts it in proper perspective, because what you just said is what leads to substance use, and which is what you're dealing with right now. Now,
Mhm.
these people, how did they get there? And you pretty much narrated some of the challenges that immigrants go through when they move here. And
Mhm.
this, you didn't just get it from a book. You got it from talking to elders from ACB, African, Caribbean, and Black communities. What are the challenges themselves as adults, themselves as elders in these communities, what they see as the problem, that the challenges that they face, right?
Mhm.
Okay, I think it's well articulated in any of the social issues that newcomers face. Those are the barriers, those are the challenges that the hoops that they have to jump through. And then a lot of times they find themselves really faced with something they just don't know how to deal with, young people, adults. And you talked about the problem of um, coming to a new country, trying to get a job, and the challenges that the struggle is real. We all know that.
Yeah.
Josephine,
Mhm.
yourself, you're a nurse. You worked in the health sector for a long, long time. Public
Mhm.
health, that's your field. You did a whole lot
Mhm.
of work in that, so you know that, and you've lived here for quite a while. You've seen the challenges that newcomers face, and I am not surprised you felt like you have to step up, occupy
Mhm.
this space, and do
Mhm.
something to help people. And
Yeah.
moving towards women, let's narrow it down to women in our communities and substance use, because normally when people talk of substance use, they don't get the picture of a woman who is struggling with that,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
as you said in your when you first came in, when we're talking of substance use, we are talking of alcohol. It's a substance which actually normally people just think, oh, I'm just having a glass of wine, not
Mhm.
realizing that it could
Mhm.
escalate to become a problem when one
Mhm.
uses it often, and to a point where they are numbing. They just don't realize that they're taking it because they just want
Mhm.
every day you're taking alcohol to a point where
Mhm.
it becomes. Then other substances, you talked about cocaine, crack, and it's a challenge. I mean, here we
Yeah.
talk about it, we hear about it every day. How do narrow it down to women, and what's going on in that area when it comes to substance use?
Okay. Before we get there, I want also to bring in another component that working with these marginalized women, mostly, let's not forget about indigenous population, because they are also huge in this work that we're doing. So Afrocentric and indigenous, but we do not discriminate other populations. However, these are the biggest population right now that we are focusing on and working with. So now women and substance use, it's a very unique area, because I remember going into sometimes conferences or community forums and so forth, talking about this, bringing women in. People are like, what, women? Especially Afrocentric, they become like, is that a problem
Yeah.
with women? And to me, just that surprise and question is a problem itself. And why is because a woman in our these communities, women are seen as, of course, they are pillars. They are holding structures together, structures which are like family structures together. And we as women, we work so hard to present ourselves as the better one for others, so that they don't fall, so that they can remain strong. And that's why when we talk substances with our communities and women, people wonder, because the face women bring to the public is different from the
Mhm.
face of reality where they are, because they are doing that for others. So um, and it doesn't discriminate the substance use. Men are affected, and it might show that men are more likely affected and so forth because of their own challenges that we know as well they are going through. But women are not far away from that.
Mhm.
And sometimes even in a family, a woman would be the one struggling, and the man is trying to support and help. So it is both sides with
Mhm.
women. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a pity because but it's important that you talk about it because sometimes people don't realize the challenges that that women face when they move, most of when they move to this to a new country, and
Mhm,
try to get it all together, trying to hold it all together, not for themselves, for the
mhm,
children. And
mhm,
sometimes they have spouses, they've got a husband who is also struggling. Maybe he
mhm,
comes here, he was a doctor back home, well
mhm,
established, an accountant, and they come here and he goes for months without a job and
mhm,
ends up taking up, jobs just to bring food to the table. They end
mhm,
up driving taxis, going to do shift work in factories, and this is a person who had a prestigious job, and
mhm,
the wife is home and trying to keep it all together, but
mhm,
it also takes its toll on the person who is trying to keep it all together, and
mhm.
sometimes you end up with mother and child all falling into the same rat, or
Yeah.
using alcohol,
Mhm.
or even other substances which you talked about, crack cocaine, heroin, or any of those things. I mean, we see these things. We see it's a good thing we see these things, but some things we don't even see because it's in
Yeah.
the background.
Mhm,
And
mhm.
then other young people who are coming here, some they come as students, right?
Yeah.
And then they lose it. And what do?
Yeah, they go to the substances, they go to alcohol, they go to drugs. These drugs, fentanyl, all these drugs that are really now taking over their lives, you know. And at the end, we have lost lives. When I say lost lives, I mean people dying.
Mm.
And this is not like a, you know, I, I just feel and I wish that we could all look at it as a disease, as a
Mm.
condition,
Mhm.
not as somebody's you know choices per se. Yes, you choose
Mhm.
at for a start. Somebody, of course, you try something, and what makes you try that thing might be big, like you are saying, a lot of things we don't see, like mental health. If somebody is struggling like that, that man with a big job coming from outside the country, and then here has to be, even women have to be cleaning because that's the only job you can find. Make coffee and so forth. Most of us have gone through that. I remember the first job I got was to coffee shop in the university where I was, and I was so excited. I went to my class and told everybody, "Oh, I got a job." "Oh, what kind of job did you get?" "Oh, I'm selling coffee in the store." And people
But
look at me like, "What?" And to me, I am already now in the system. I'm working. You see?
but try to imagine that you were doing that with a master's in public health, and it can take its toll because sometimes when you're sitting and say, what am I doing? What's going on? It
Yeah.
can take its toll. Mhm, mhm.
Yes.
And
Yes.
mental health. I mean, we know it's a big issue right now, and
Mhm.
it can be caused by a lot of things, compounded by just struggling, the daily struggle of trying to settle. Eventually, people settle and they do well, but
Mhm.
it's not everybody. These challenges, they affect people differently, right?
Exactly,
Mhm.
exactly. And they also affect our children. They
Yeah.
affect everybody around us. As much as adults, sometimes we really try hard to hold it together for the
Mhm.
sake of our children. But I have learned through life and that children, they will sense and feel what you are going through. As much as you don't want them to see or to know, they they know you, and that's the worst struggle that we leave these children in. And at the end, because there's no open communication, they seek communication outside somewhere, and most of the time they fall in the wrong hands,
Yeah.
and that's when now they get into these substances.
But your
So
organization so far, how is it going in raising awareness on this? Because I think it has to start with awareness, with raising awareness in communities so that they realize that we have a problem. Everybody sees people dying, they read about it, they see it on CBC and whatever. Uh, but realizing that that person who you saw, the boy who was found dead, it could be anybody's child.
exactly.
How are you doing? How are you doing in terms of raising awareness in these communities?
Right now, as you are aware, being a not-for-profit and so young is such a challenge. Just to get on your feet, we do not have the operating budget. We depend on the grants and so forth. So with our grants, we apply mostly towards building communities, reaching out to communities. So we would go to places like churches, to community organization or associations. We would also engage businesses around us. We connect with other organizations. Let's say Alberta Health Services is a big organization that is providing health services to Alberta. We connect with um, other organizations that are maybe detox. There are also shelters for women. They are also educational organizations. And when there are events in the community, we try to show up so that we can start the conversation and so forth. The
I,
plan for uh-huh.
I think it's very important for you to be visible. So
Yes,
yes, because if the work that you're doing really, like I said earlier on, it has to be commended highly. Um,
thank
but
you.
maybe getting in touch with agencies, maybe immigrant serving agencies that are, the first stop for most newcomers anywhere, and giving education wherever they are. There are events, go there and have a table there and give out your information, and that's how you can get the communities engaged, because of course, because of the stigma associated with things such as substance use, people
Mhm,
are not always open to talking about it.
mhm,
Even if they know somebody who is struggling with it, people are
mhm.
not always open to talk about it because the stigma associated with
Yes.
alcohol, use of alcohol, or substances that people call them drug abuse. We try to call
Mm,
it substance abuse,
mhm,
so that
mhm.
we don't seem to be judging them, because that's the other problem.
Yes, yes,
Mm-hmm.
stigmatization
Mm-hmm.
is big. So
Mm-hmm.
we are really trying to be compassionate, be sensitive to these individuals. Let's look at them as humans before drugs. And that way would bring us all together to the understanding. And we try to send this message. When you see somebody, try to understand where this person is coming from, meaning the background. How did this person get to where they are at this time? Because nobody was born with, at this age with all those other stuff. These are learned stuff that
Yeah.
people learn, and sometimes very unfortunate that they fall into it and they go deeper. Some are lucky they can just pull themselves out and get out of it, and then survive, and
Mm-hmm.
hopefully those are the ones also that we're looking out to work with, so that they can help
Mm-hmm.
these other ones who are still struggling to stay strong and stay sober, get back their lives, to get back their dignity and so forth. Because when we talk with these individuals, what we hear, especially women, the first thing women with children is, I want my children back.
Mm-hmm.
I want my life back. I want. So there's a huge loss that has happened there. So yes, we really need, and we are aware that we have to go further than where we are. Go to those organizations that receive these individuals when they
Mm-hmm.
come, so that they are aware. as well, that okay, this is a challenge, this is a problem, this is happening. So when they see it, they are already sensitized to know
Yes.
that this can happen, and how can I be proactive to it. Yeah.
Very important, because if they don't realize that anybody could fall into that, when it happens to them, the stress and
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
sometimes drives them to mental health and end up in that kind of thing, and for some even into prostitution, to
Yes.
because those two, they feed into each other.
Yeah.
A lot of I know, because I work for an agency which had a program for sex workers, and
Mm-hmm.
talking to them, that's when you realize, stop being judgmental. If you talk to them, you realize the struggle they're going through.
Mm-hmm.
They have to feed the substance by sex work. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
they do sex work so they can get money to feed their habit, and it just goes round and round. And so it's important to learn these things before it becomes a problem with these individuals, right?
Yes.
But where is there any rehab centers? Do you get some people who are on recovery, who have just left rehab, or yeah, who are
Yes.
trying to stay sober? Let me put it that way: who are trying to stay sober, and they've gone through the rut, and they are kind of like on their way out.
Yes, we connect with these individuals across board. If we happen to know and connect with an individuals before they go for rehab or detox, we try to facilitate access to service there so they can get help. However, most of them, we are looking into those ones who are already in the rehab and so forth. We work with the facilitators there. We work with their counselors, and they connect us with the clients, and then through that, if the client is interested, then we can take it on from there. The challenge with these individuals coming from rehab, like I said at the beginning, is that from rehab there is no other stop to say, okay, I come out of treatment, I come here and work on myself, work on my connections, let's say family, children, and so forth, so that I come out even stronger, and they are also prepared for me, so that when I come back to that environment or home, then the home is ready to support, ready to, uh, yes, because even them, it's a shock too. Because if they were used to you this way, now you come back this way, they don't know
Yeah,
how to handle you.
it's true.
Or maybe they are also struggling there. So you come back, you find them in the same situation that you
Yeah,
left. So our organization is more into saying, let's help these individuals from rehab, with that they do a good job, actually. A good
yeah,
job. But we see recycle of these people,
yeah,
because there is no support of, yes, you are finished with detox or treatment, now stage by stage, stage by
yeah.
stage, to help the individual, help the family, help the community, help the nation, so that we can all be on one page on how to.
Yes, Josephine, I don't even know how to thank you, because you see how time goes so fast. It's 30 minutes already, it's gone. But thank you so much for this work that you're doing in communities, because the drug issue, substance use is really big everywhere. And we're all grappling. We're all grappling to see what can be done to help to save save the nation. But
Yes.
I thank you so much for the work that you're doing, and keep doing what you're doing. And again, thanks for being an ordinary person who's doing extraordinary work in communities. Thank you, my friend. And from me, Sangwa Dispiwa Mapfumo, I will see you next week with another ordinary person doing extraordinary stuff. Thank you.
Thank you.